Board of Education meeting this evening. A special welcome to the new board members, Brian Bell, Tracy Abishaline, and Tom Holland. So welcome aboard. We look forward to your contributions on the board. The next order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, so I'd ask people to stand while we say the pledge. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is that better? The next item of business is election of officers. With this process, we will be soliciting nominations for the officers of President, Vice President, Treasurer, and Secretary. We'll start out with a nomination for the President. Is there a nomination for President?
Mr. Chairperson, I would like to submit into consideration or nomination this evening for President of the Hudson School Board, Dan Turnahoy.
Dan Turnahoy has been nominated for the position of President. Are there any further nominations? Any further nominations from the board? If not, the nomination for President is closed. And do we have a motion to cast a unanimous ballot?
Mr. Chairperson, I would like to make a motion that the school board cast a unanimous vote on the part of Dan Turnahoy for President of the board.
We have a motion by Mr. Minnick. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Cindy Crimmins. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. The next nomination is for the offices of Vice President. Do we have a nomination for the office of Vice President?
Mr. President, I would make a motion for a nomination for Dick Minnick for the office of Vice President.
Richard Minnick has been nominated for the position of Vice President. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Holland and a second by Mr. Bell. Are there any further nominations? Any further nominations for Vice President? If not, the nominations for Vice President are closed, and do we have a motion to cast a unanimous ballot for Vice President?
Mr. President, I would move the unanimous election of Dick Minnick.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Holland, a second by Mr. Bell. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And Mr. Minnick will be the Vice President. Next is the nomination for the office of Treasurer. Do we have a nomination for that office?
Mr. Chairperson, I'd like to nominate Mike Kaiserschott as Treasurer.
Mark Kaiserschott has been nominated for the position of Treasurer. Are there any further nominations? Any further nominations from the board? If not, the nominations are closed, and I will ask for a motion to cast unanimous ballot for the Treasurer office.
I would like to cast a unanimous ballot for Mike.
Mark.
I keep doing that.
Okay.
Mark. Sorry. Kaiserschott.
I will second the motion.
We have a motion by Ms. Habishaline and a second by Mr. Minnick. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion is passed. The last position is a nomination for the office of secretary. Do we have a nomination for secretary?
Mr. President, I would like to nominate Ms. Cindy Crimmins for the position of Secretary Clerk.
Ms. Cindy Crimmins has been nominated for the position of secretary clerk. Are there any further nominations? Any further nominations from the board? If not, the nominations are closed, and again, I ask for a motion to cast unanimous ballot.
Mr. President, I would make the motion to cast the unanimous ballot for Ms. Cindy Crimmins for the position of Secretary Clerk.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Kaiserschott and a second by Mr. Minnick. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion is approved, and we now have the selection of the officers. Thank you, everybody. Look forward to you serving in those capacities. The next order of business is the approval of the agenda. I'll accept a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Mr. President, I would move approval of the agenda as presented.
We have a motion for Mr. Kaiserschott. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second for Ms. Crimmins. Any discussion? Hearing no changes or discussion. All those in favor of the agenda as printed, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The agenda has been approved for tonight's meeting. Next item of business is the approval of the April 18th, 2006 regular and closed session Board of Education meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
Mr. President, I would move the approval of the April 18th, 2006 regular and closed session Board of Education meeting minutes.
We have a motion by Mr. Holland. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Second for Mr. Bell. If not, I ask that a motion be made, or excuse me, all those in favor of the minutes of the April 18, 2006 regular and closed session Board of Education meeting, say aye.
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 Those opposed? The minutes of those two meetings has been approved. Okay. Thank you. I'll try to lean forward. The next item of business is a student staff recognition. The first item is the Raider Forensics team. Sandy, would you like to present that?
Craig Lewis is the coach of the forensics team, and he is unable to be with us tonight due to a conflict, but we are fortunate to have Nikki Benson, who is his assistant coach, and members of the successful forensics team. Did I say that right, Nikki Benson? Did I say that right? Okay. And so she will share some information regarding the successful season, a little overview, and then that will allow the team members to introduce themselves.
Well, thank you for recognizing our team tonight. They worked really hard this season, so it's an honor to be here. This forensics season, students participated in 4 invitationals, competing for both individual and team points, and then also 2 state qualifying tournaments. 18 entries and 22 students made it to the state competition in Madison that was held April 7th and 8th. And all of the 18 entries medaled, which is a great accomplishment. And entries are judged out of a total of 25 points, and our students earned 119, 120, 522s, 323s, 424s, and 425s, or perfect scores at state. Craig Lewis, the head coach, and I are very proud of them. And I'm now going to let representatives from our team introduce themselves and say a little bit about their experience. So we'll start with John.
Hi, I'm John Ross. I'm the captain of the forensics team. And this year at state, I competed in solo acting. And it's just an event where you do like an 8-minute piece by yourself, and you can play multiple characters. And I achieved a 25, a perfect score, and a gold medal at state.
Hi, I'm Cindy Kutchik. This year at State, I competed in prose, which is basically story reading for 8 minutes. I received a 20 and a bronze medal at State.
I'm Dave Sincata, and I was in the category of extemporaneous speaking. You are given a topic at random, and you have a half an hour to write a 8-minute speech on it, and I got a 24 at State.
Hi, I'm Sarah Hawksford. At State this year, I competed in the category of storytelling, where I have 5 different stories prepared for the whole season, and I find out about 15 seconds before I go which story I'm going to tell. And it's a really fun category. I've really enjoyed it.
Good job.
Hi, I'm Hannah Janicki. At State, I was in the category of prose, which is reading a short story, and I got a 25 at State.
Hello, my name is Becky Krieger, and sorry. And this was my first year in forensics, and I competed in the category of oratory, which is an 8-minute memorized persuasive speech, and I scored a 22.
Hello, I'm Chance Mitchell. I competed in the category of radio. That's where you're given half an hour to prepare a 5-minute long radio presentation, including the commercial, international news, national news, local news, weather, and sports. Last year I got a 23 and a silver medal at State. This year I, however, got a 22 and a bronze.
Hello, my name is Ryan Bates. I am also in the category of radio, and at State this year I got a 24 silver medal.
Should I go first? Yeah. Okay, I'm Jamie Colson.
I'm Katie Crimmins.
I'm Lindsay Rindell.
And I'm Stephen Dolly, and we participated in the event of group interpretation, which is, in this case, we took an excerpt from the book Up the Down Staircase by Belle Kaufman, and we assigned different parts from the book to us to speak as lines, and it's almost like acting a play, but we can't look at each other or touch each other, and it's really with facial expressions and just good movements and convincing the audience with your face and stuff. So.
Hello, my name is Nico Vicino, and this year and last year at State Forensics, I participated in the category of play acting, and my partner cannot be here tonight, but this year as well as last year, I received a 25 perfect score.
Hello, I'm Austin Vicino, and this year in State, I participated in solo acting, and I received a 24 silver medal.
Not all of our members could be here, but I hope you enjoyed hearing from some of our representatives, so thank you again.
Thank you, students. Very good job, and thank you for your participation in forensics, and Mr. Lewis and all your instructors. The next item of business is another presentation, I believe, on Destination Imagination. Sandy?
Yes, last month our superintendent shared some information regarding the success of our Destination Imagination program, the growth and the success. And this year we have 1 high school and 1 middle school team that will be competing in the global competition at the end of May in Knoxville. Both teams are coached by Liz Malanlafi. Am I saying that right? I hope. The middle school team is an improv team, and so they're unable to perform for us tonight. But the high school team will be sharing their winning performance. And Liz, do you have a few things you want to say first?
First of all, I'd like to say that the high school team really coached themselves. And I know they'd like me to say that because this was the first year they kind of just flew solo. For those of you who don't know about DI or Destination Imagination, it's very similar to forensics. Probably the biggest difference is that all the participants work as a team, and they'll be anywhere from 2 to 8 or to 7 members. So I know some of these guys worked as a team, but they all work as a team. It's very similar. It's critical thinking skills. They have to often think on their feet. They have to prepare things, some things ahead of time, and they're put on the spot sometimes and have to think very quickly. It's just develops creativity, creative problem-solving program. And what the teams have to do is they will follow, and I don't know if you guys have these, they will follow a challenge. I think you should have these in front of you. They have 5 challenges to choose from each year, and when they choose a challenge, then they stick to that from October through March, where they perform at regionals. Our improv team did this challenge called On Safari, and what they had to do to prepare was study animals, or I should say living inhabitants and environments. And they had to also study improvisational techniques, and they had to incorporate those within a 30-minute time period at their tournament and create a play in 30 minutes. So that's why it's hard for them to perform, because they're given all this stuff and then they're given 30 minutes and then they've got to create it. So I'm going to introduce them, and they can come up and tell you what part they played in their play, in their performance at state. Or I'm going to let them introduce themselves, so you guys can come up.
I'm Tess Babbitt, and in our skit that we did for On Safari, I played the cool amoeba Tess, also known as Cat.
I'm Gretchen Peterson, and in our skit, I played one of the auditioners, and I also played the stage manager.
I'm Paige Prabonic, and in our skit, I played the director of the play.
I'm Max Moyanifi, and in our skit, I played Simon Cowell, the celebrity judge. And then the last member of our group, Erin Bloomer, was not able to be here tonight, but she played another amoeba.
All right, thank you, students.
And this team that's coming, the high school team, they'll introduce themselves, and their challenge, for those of you who are sitting in the audience and don't have the challenge description, they had to create a story about events in a nation other than their own. They had to integrate research about the nation into the story. They needed to present the story in the style of one of 8 genres listed in the challenge, so they had to research the genres. They actually chose to use all the genres in their story, so watch for the different genres. They had to design and create a hat that dramatically transformed the wearer. They had to use one or more technical methods to cause a bizarre happening to take place, and then create 2 or more side trips, which are just specialties that they used in their play. So, and they will introduce themselves either before or after. I'll let them decide.
We'll talk a little bit about beforehand, and we'll talk more about it afterwards. Basically, let's give you an overview of our skits so you get it. When we go and perform, the judges have a general outline of the skits, so it's a lot easier. So basically, we chose, when we were working, it was getting down to crunch time, we're like, we have no idea for a skit, what are we going to do? So we did a skit about a DI team that has no idea what they're going to do. And they're in France, because it had to be in a nation, so we included some stuff about France. And as Liz touched on, the story had to be in a specific genre, and we chose, they gave you 8 genres to choose from, and we just did all 8. So it kind of flips through the performance. Every character has a specific personality that kind of embodies that genre. So you'll see that in the performance. That's kind of what's going on. We can tell our stats afterwards. All right. Okay, we'll do it.
And I play
Names are
soap opera or melodrama. I'm Emily Nicholas, and I play the Mind movie. I'm Ashley Anderson, and I play the reality show host.
I'm Joshua Fogarty, and I play Chad. And my genre is action. I'm David Schoberg, and I play mystery. I'm Adam Salon, and I'm the narrator. Flamboyant French. Really loud? Alright, so when we do it at DI, we start the time and you're off stage, so we're not going to be timed tonight, but we'll start off stage. We'll just run. Alright. start performing and like set the stage. Let's see if we remember the lines.
Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. We are for you for this show today. Our story takes place in the city of life, Paris, France. So, you will not speak the language of love because you may not know what we are saying. A TID in the throes of creativity. Struggling, no? With their challenge, no? Let's have a look, no?
Did you know 75% of all crop circles take place in the south of France? All three.
All right, team, let's kick it into high gear. Booyah! It's elementary. We've nearly solved the puzzle.
Why is everyone yelling? Maybe we can do something about like.
Oh yeah, so like they'll see them before us. We can just everyone's
Superhero.
Hey, let me read the problem. Problem, like the hat occur. What is your DI estimation? Whenever you hear a DI for a story, all you want to know is what happened. Well, this DI People Challenge can take you from the IDI garage to Saudi Arabia. The hat you need to DI who is make up the skit The Hat has 5 DI, 6 DI for a genres, and an in-can DI for a situation. And you have to have a hat that makes someone mad and DI ranged. Forget it. This doesn't even make sense.
It seems to be in some sort of a code. Maybe a foreign language. What's about hats, right?
Yes.
All right, guys. I got an idea. We could rent as spouse over at. Thank you. Okay. So we'll go over to Babbitt's Barrette Particular.
No. It is very
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we'll go there and we'll just see if we run into some perspiration.
You mean inspiration?
I said constipation.
That's a splendid idea. I knew you would think of something. You're so smart.
So that is exactly what they did. Let us follow the diadem to the beret boutique and see what happens.
Change us. Change the whole story, baby. That is crazy. Who knows what that'll do? Who knows? Alright, check this one out, guys. This is the one. Here we go. Inspiration right here.
This is hopeless. Maybe this stupid hatch-up was a dumb idea.
I suggest maybe we look somewhere else for some clue. Si Brazil abri, no? Not the bidet, et toupé! I am Lieutenant Ketchup. My favorite game is Clue, my favorite movie is Clue, and my favorite book is Clue 2.
Hi, I'm Miranda. I like drama, red wine, and white wine. Hi, I'm Mimi, and I want to say.
Alright guys, what's up? My name's Chad. I like rock climbing, cliff diving, raptor hunting, turtle watching. I like to spell extreme with a big red hat. Alright. Metallica rules. Alright. Give me that. Whoa! Alright, I got an idea. There's this coup d'etat. No, it is coup d'etat. Okay, anyway, there's this guy. Steals a headdress because that's a hat. But then he makes a second headdress. But it turns out to be a bomb. And then it's like, fight scene! He jumps over him. No, guns are bad. And he's spinning around. This is all action. And then it goes into slow motion because that's good at action films. It's coming down like this.
She's dead.
She's not dead. She's in a coma.
Me? Just because I have big, rippling, succulent muscles. Doesn't mean I'm the one who did it.
Shut up. Don't you know you're carrying my baby?
You know I can't have children ever since my skydiving accident. There was no accident. She's bald.
Oh, that sound of the hourglass. These are the days of our lives.
All day I've been looking for clues. I found the most important one on the back of this very toupee. I've been waiting to show it to you until right now for suspense purposes. It's a hat, human-altering toupee. It makes it all come clear to me. It was the narrator in the foyer with the toupee.
It is not foyer. It is foyer. And it is a beautiful word like latte and cafe and lingerie and even Beyonce. And I don't keep it that way. I am with the Bureau of French American Words, and we keep the correct French pronunciation beautiful and true. And that is mine.
It's breezy. It is French like croquet. Magic toupee, kiss your worries away. Magic toupee, parlez-vous français. Hey, we got a magic toupee. Let's tour.
Okay, the thing with the hat, the thing floating across the wind for zero happening.
So we had to have a bazaar happening in the performance. Play on words.
Okay.
Judges.
Yeah, it's got to be technical, so we made like a.
All these pictures over here, had something to do with France. We have to integrate like culture and history of the country that you're in into the story. I'm not going to go over and explain it right now. It's taking a long time, but that's what those are for.
And then, in the story, you have to have a hat that changed you. That's kind of like the biggest thing about the story. And we didn't, everyone was doing like crazy looking hats and stuff, so we wanted to make something different, so we made a toupee out of chocolate.
So that's why we kind of did the whole thing making fun of the hats.
Yeah, like, because like the judges are waiting to see you put on a crazy looking hat, and that's when the moment's going to be, so they're in anticipation. And we were like, haha, 3 times.
And also, when she read the problem and it didn't make any sense, that's just kind of how DI writes their problem.
It is like that.
Yeah, like you guys, we might have in the challenge in front of you there, every time the letters DI appear next to each other, they capitalize it. And it just makes it impossible to read, so we were kind of making fun of it.
Yeah, it says how hat happened.
Yeah,
All right,
so.
so let's talk about that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Thank you, students, and very fine performance. Congratulations on your winning at state, and good luck as you go to the global finals. And also a thank you to the coaches. Appreciate their work as well. Okay, the next order of business. We have another recognition before us. Sandy, do you want to share that with us?
Yeah, I'm on a roll, so we'll try one more. This evening, we have Mike Yell, middle school teacher, with us. And Mike has a special honor. He actually has had a few in his life. In 1998, he was the National Council of Social Studies National Social Studies Teacher of the Year. And from 2000 to 2003, he has served on the National Board of Directors. Mike will now become the president. This is called a national position, the national president of the NCSS, the National Council of Social Studies Teachers. He'll assume the vice presidency on June 30th, and he'll stay in that office until June 30th of 2007. Then he'll become the president-elect until June 30th of 2008, and then he will become the president. Then, of course, you become the past president for 1 year. So he'll be quite busy for the next 4 years. And Mike, why don't you come down to the podium so we can recognize you. If you have not had the opportunity to be in Mike's classroom, it's a very special setting. He is he's actually co-authored a book on best practices in social studies. He really brings his classroom alive, and it's a very special classroom. Mike, why don't you talk a little bit? I know you shared with me, but I'm going to let you do a little bit more about the National Council.
Okay, the National Council of the Social Studies is about a 24,000 member organization. Most of the affiliates are in the United States here, although we have some in Germany and in other countries. And mostly it's social studies teachers, it's professionals, social studies professors, administrators, textbook people, publishers, editors. It's a whole gamut of people, parents who are very interested in social studies education and history education. As the vice president and the president-elect, my duties are pretty much to, represent social studies to the media and such, but pretty much you do what the president wants you to do, and help fill in their schedule, because the president's schedule is quite hectic. And then the president is a very busy year. The past president, I'm convinced after being involved in it, it's kind of to prevent you from getting the bends from decompressing too fast. But it's quite an honor, and I just wanted to say that I think that all professions, whether it be in education, law, medicine, to excel in it, you really need to have a commitment to your own professional growth, to grow in what you do. And as for a teacher like myself, the support of administration is just so vital in helping me to improve what I do in the classroom. And so I wanted to thank not only Bob, who brought us to the personnel committee when I first decided to run, but Ron and Chuck for being, my own principal Dan for being very supportive, and now Mary and Sandy, who certainly hit the ground running, being very supportive of professional development. And just, you know, it's an honor for me. I think I'm the third Wisconsinite to get in the position, and one of the few teachers, and it is an honor for me, but I really thank all of you for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And congratulations on the appointment, and good luck in your role on the council. You've certainly been a leader in your field, and I presume you're going to continue that role, so thank you. Next item of business are reports. We have a report on the comprehensive communication plan. Cindy Crimmins.
Well, as you remember, 2 years ago at this time of year, we engaged in a
review of our strategic plan. One of the things that was highlighted by that process was a need for a better communication and to really visit how we communicate with the district, with our parents, as well as with people in the district who don't have children attending the school district at this time. And so as a result of that, there was an ad hoc committee formed, and that ad hoc committee for a year worked to gather information together about the district. And then in this past year, a standing committee was formed and we engaged the services of Brunwinter Reese to really take that material, that not just the goal and the need, but also the material that was collected by that first committee to the next step. And that is to really formulate this document, which you've all seen, which is a draft of the Comprehensive Communications Plan for the district, and still in formative stages, clearly. But tonight, what I'd really like to do is give Michelle Winter an opportunity to explain to you what we've done here and begin to lay that plan out for you.
Thank you very much. I'm also known as Melissa Winter, but I get called Michelle a lot, so that's okay. That's all right. Thank you very much, Board of Education members and Superintendent Owen Agabratten, for having me here tonight. I do have my business partners here to join me in supporting this recommendation. First is Lynn Brunn, she's there in the back. And then up helping me with the slides is Sherry Reese. This plan is made possible because of the support and guidance from the Communications Committee and the Superintendent, and we thank them for their support throughout this process. Tonight I'll give an overview of the complete comprehensive communications plan, which, as Cindy said, you already have. I will review the research and our recommended communications objectives. My presentation should take about 10 minutes, and I would be happy to answer questions at the completion of my review. Research is the first and most important step when you're drafting a communications plan. You must understand where your audiences currently receive information and how they view you. And I believe that you all have the slides that I'm referring to up on the projector. Since improving communication has been a priority of the strategic plan, as Cindy said, the district already had quality quantitative research that was very valuable for evaluating current communication systems and vehicles. The two most valuable surveys were the Informal Communication Survey and Decision Resources Surveys of 2005. I've highlighted on the slide some of the findings that impact communication. First is that your community values the Hudson Star Observer's coverage. The Hudson Star Observer is widely read and the district is widely covered. Your community also values the district mailings. These are also widely read. We observed opportunities to improve electronic communication, both via the web and email. This was shown because the research indicated that your community did not turn to the web and electronic forms of communication as a reliable source for information about the district. So there was an opportunity to raise that up. There's also an opportunity to impact the not sure and undecided community members. This goes to the Decision Resources Survey, that when community members were asked about the financial stewardship of the district, the positive respondents were in about the 40% range. The unfavorables were in the 30% range, and the undecided and unsures were in the 20% range. So clearly, there's an opportunity to provide more information, more communication, so that you can help those undecideds become decided. And lastly, there are opportunities to support your staff as communications leaders. The research showed that your teachers and principals are very trusted sources of information in your community. And so finding opportunities to support them as leaders in communicating messages is going to be very important. Aside from the building forums and email from individual directors or the superintendent, the district did not have a vehicle for regular communication with employees. As I noted on the previous slide, they are an extremely valuable communications asset. In February, we did an unscientific survey to determine how best to communicate with employees. And those board members who are returning are familiar with the results of this survey. Here's what we did find out, though. Your employees value timely information, they value the building forums, but we also found opportunities to improve electronic communication. They are using the email and using the web, so let's also use that as a way to communicate district messages. And we also found opportunities to improve two-way communication. Once the research was reviewed, we started looking into the specific recommendations for improving internal and external communication. Some guiding principles for the communication plan became clear. First, two-way communication is key. Provide opportunities for feedback, especially when making decisions that impact people directly. Face-to-face communication is essential when communicating complex messages. Second, utilize outside credible sources. Whenever possible, use sources outside of the district to reinforce messages, such as the auditor and the State Department of Education. Third, take the high road. Continue to value community engagement and address any rumors or misinformation through multiple communication vehicles. And last, plan ahead. When there is a new initiative, program, or policy change, the planning should include a brief plan on how it will be communicated both internally and externally. So now we get to where the rubber hits the road with the communication objectives. The first is to establish district-wide communication systems. Mary is very familiar with my mantra: if you want someone to remember what you've said, tell them many times in many ways. Some of the strategies in this objective include expanding employee communication, reorganization of the district websites, an annual leadership exchange with community leaders and our school leaders, and more. All are designed to have multiple ways for your audiences to receive information. The first desired outcome is to increase the percent of internal and external audiences who turn to district communication vehicles for information. Many of our strategies have already begun to be implemented, and one of them is enhancing the content of the district's website. And I'm happy to have Nancy Toll join me this evening to give you an update on this particular desired outcome.
Thank you, Melissa. There's a graph on page 15 of your board packet that you might have looked at before that shows the number of visits to the district website over the past year and a half. As you can see, the trend was pretty steady from September 2004 through November of 2005, where we averaged 219 hits per day. I'm a firm believer in that people will only want to visit a website if there is content that is valuable to them. And we definitely met that criterion, not so joyfully, in January of 2006 when the middle school fire hit. We experienced 1,130 hits in one day. That seemed to get people to the website, but now the graphs show that people are still coming back. We averaged 454 hits per day in April, and I think that increased content that the district has been supplying through the website is a major reason for this trend. It will be interesting to see if this continues and can even increase with better organization of content. Our most popular pages continue to be our index or main page, employment, athletic, and school pages, but we've seen a marked increase in access to our parent and board pages recently. We need to keep listening to all of our users and be sure we are providing information that is pertinent to their needs. The creation of this communications plan is a good start to making sure the district is addressing the needs of its stakeholders.
Thank you, Nancy. So that's a really good outcome so far, and just so quickly to see that. And while the fire may have been the initial thing that brought people to the site because it was regularly updated when we knew more information about the status of school, it's really encouraging to see that people continue to come back. So the second desired outcome of this particular objective is to develop and expand your current communication vehicles. So moving on to the communications objective number 2, one district, one voice, one look. This is about branding. And while I'm a PR person, there's a little bit of marketing in me too. Make it obvious to your audience who you are. See then the statistic of how many actually then go to the website as an opportunity to improve that number. Because clearly your community has access to the internet and to the website. We wouldn't want to design a website that is very flashy, that has Java, which is what makes things animate on the screen, because many folks in your community still have dial-up, and so it would take a long time for them to open a page. And so given the fact that the internet is so immediate as far as conveying information, it is fastly becoming a highly prioritized communication vehicle.
Okay, and and that certainly makes sense to me. I was actually surprised that the number was so low at 25%, and I was just trying to to read between the lines as to why that was. From your experience, Ms. Winter, where would maybe you expect that number should be? I mean, would you expect that to be the first source for information, or
no?
Second,
I still think that your community will continue to value direct communication from the Hudson Star Observer. Hudson Star Observer has just across the board really high readership in your community, and people go to that. So continuing the great relationship with them where they allow Mary to have a column. So I would see it as probably maybe second or third in a ranking after after the Hudson Star Observer, direct information from the district in a mailing, and then the website. Okay. But it's very possible that the website would supersede and become the second priority. And I would rank it as a priority. I like to say which is your most preferred and then to have them be ranked. But
all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other board members with questions or comments regarding this topic? Mr. Minnick?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I do. Are there districts where the website is the main vehicle for communication or providing information?
Boy, I am going to look at I don't know. My business partner, Lynn Brunn, is really my online communications expert. And we have typically worked with school districts where populations are lower income than in Hudson, and so they tend to not have access to the web and the internet. And so for those school districts, it's not as high of a priority to make sure that the web is the most effective communication vehicle. But given the really positive response your community, your parents have had to family access, and I don't know if Nancy wanted to say anything about how much that has grown in this last year. It's clear that your community is turning to the web. They love going to the web and finding out the status of their students' homework assignments, their attendance. And so I think that it is a trend that will just continue to grow in Hudson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mr. President.
Yeah, Mr. Allen.
I would like to congratulate you and the committee on, I think, a good start in a comprehensive communications plan. My question is regarding the outcome, or measurable outcomes that would come from this. As it's indicated in the plan, it notes increase the percentage of audiences. It also speaks of increasing the percentage of of those that would see the school board and the administration as trusted and credible. Are there percentages that should be targeted? And I guess what I'm looking for is I'm asking if there is an acceptable or a highly obtainable measurement of percentage of those areas, typically in communities, that we should target rather than just to increase it by a percentage.
You know, Mary and I had talked about whether or not we set a target for a specific, if it's at 20%, we should decrease the undecideds to 5% or something, and ultimately decided against doing that, mainly because you don't have a dedicated person whose full-time job is to help communicate. And so I want to be really realistic in what you're able to accomplish. And so I think improvement in these areas, just by percentage, is going to be really valuable for you. You would have to do these surveys again to find out specifically where you've made growth. And I would say in 3 to 5 years, it would be great to be able to reevaluate how you're doing with communication. But whether or not that's realistic, because scientific surveys can be very expensive. So being able to gauge community support, it's great because we have the counter on the website, so that's a really easy way to measure the outcome of that particular objective. So I'm sorry, I'm going to stay away from giving you a specific number.
But let me say something about that. The Decision Resources Group that we heard from earlier in the year, they do have, and I should remember these numbers off the top of my head, and I don't, but there are norms for districts our size in our particular circumstances, being, growing or shrinking, or, all the different variations that a community can be in at any given time. And they do have norms for what would be expected in terms of the positive response on all of the questions that they ask. And we did do that in the fall, didn't we? Was it fall or was it spring last year? But that was one of the things that we did last year. And so we do have that information. We have those, that as a data source for us. And we were below expectations for a district our size and in our circumstance at that time, which really was one of the reasons that this board put a high priority on changing how we're communicating with the public to ensure that really we are making that connection. So it's available, I guess, is the answer.
And a summary of that report is in the back of your complete communications plan spiral. In the back there's a summary that the district produced that's really nice of that particular survey. But also in that survey, there's one area where the district does excel compared to other school districts, and that's the percentage of your community members who feel that the education in Hudson schools is either good or excellent. It's above 80%, which Decision Resources and Brunwinter Reese agrees is very high and something to be very proud of. I think that you should be very proud of the Hudson schools and the perception that a large portion of your community has of your school district. So.
Mr. President, if I could, just one more kind of a follow-up question for Ms. Winter. Considering the fact that the research here has shown that the overwhelming majority of the public at 80%, prefers to receive information through district-wide mailings, would you suggest that perhaps that should be even done more frequently?
Yes, if possible. Whether or not that fits into budgets and human resources, time to put those together. Yeah, when I've talked to community members, they have said that they've read those. And as a communications person, when I first saw them and when I came to the district, I thought they were a wonderful idea because they're very easy to read. You just get it in the mail, you don't have to open it, you can just flip it over and read the points, and then we refer people to the website to get further details and information. So,
and in fact, the postcard idea that you're talking about, as opposed to the district newsletters that were going out, the postcard is a way of communicating more frequently with the public through direct mailing. So that is already a strategy that has been.
And a postcard is less expensive to print and mail than a folded letter size. So there are advantages cost-wise to that as well.
Mr. President, I got a question. Our website, who's going to build? I saw a template for a new website. Kind of a spec in the communication plan. Who's going to build a new website? Who builds it? Who manages it?
Nancy Toll.
Well, Nancy has had an exciting meeting today.
Yeah. We actually had an update from ECHOC. Currently houses all of our teacher web pages and our email for our students and staff and a number of other features. They're doing a big update this summer, which will allow us to create our own look in a template and then very easily populate that just with a template look, a template where we can copy and paste into it, which instead of Melissa having to create content, me putting it into Dreamweaver, uploading it into another program, we'd be able to have building level people updating newsletters, the building newsletters, just to copy and paste instead of having to send it to me and that type of thing. So we're real excited about that. Yeah.
So Nancy, you'll be the webmaster for our district website yourself?
Well, I currently am, but what we'll be able to do is get a lot more people involved in actually doing the pages, that I won't have to create all the pages. Yeah, which is
one of the things we've had up to this point is that we don't have control over the design that ECHOC uses, and they provide all the pages that our teachers in our classes use, and so that's something that we inherit. And then around that, we've had to go into Dreamweaver and build pieces and sort of attach all of those. And what we've learned is that we can sidestep that process of having to build individual pages and go with a template that gives us the ability to brand it with our own branding so that it is a district web page, but that it isn't the process of building each individual page anymore, and it isn't all have to come out of Nancy's shop where she's uploading all the information for all the pages anymore. So it's going to really facilitate the ability of the district to be current on the web page, to expand the content that's there, and to also ensure consistency in a look and feel and navigation of that page while being able to do all the expansion. And Nancy will still have to do all the other things that are on her plate, so it'll work out much better than we'd hoped even.
We're real excited. A big feature is that too, you can have pages automatically be archived after a certain date. So when something is old news, if you've set a date in there, you don't have to go in physically and remove it or change the links that we have to do now. It'll be more like our cable TV program where we put the date in there, it'll run till that date, and then it'll be off. So that's a big advantage too.
Okay, any other board members have comments or questions? If not, we'll thank you, Melissa.
Dan, I do have just a final comment, and that is that that committee really worked just really hard. And I would just very, very much like to thank everybody for all the time and energy that they put in, and especially Nancy Toll and especially Brunwinter Reese, because they just really gave and gave and gave and gave and gave of their time and their energy and their talents, and we are just extremely grateful. I think the product that is coming out of this is going to be an excellent one for the district. I really believe that this is really very implementable over a period of time, and we're grateful that you came on when you did. I still have the same question I had on the first day, and you tell me that we're going to get to that before we're done with your contract, and that is what are the 10 things that need to be on this site that our community really needs to know about us that right now they don't know. And so I just wondered if you would just spend a second talking about how we're still going to get to that piece of it before you're gone.
And I think you're talking about the looking at these pieces and picking the things that are most important. Is that?
Well, I really want to know what the 10 specific things are that our community wants to know that currently they can't find.
Yes, I will be communicating via Mary in the next few weeks some specific information that will answer those questions. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Also, as I was looking through this packet of material on the comprehensive plan, if you look at the 2004-07 Hudson School District Strategic Plan, certainly this is in line with one of our 5 priorities to improve communication between the school district and community. So certainly this is an area we put some focus, and we want to continue to work and improve in the communications area. So thank you again. The next report that we have is on the elementary reading, writing, and spelling plan. Sandy, can you help us there?
We're doing a little transition. I have my PowerPoint on Melissa's computer, so we're hoping this is going to work as a transition. We are all fully aware, those of us in this room and the viewing audience as well, that reading, writing, and spelling are key to student success. And we also know that success in these areas has been shown to have a direct link to success in all other content areas. The plan presented this evening is a joint effort between the elementary principals, the Elementary Language Arts Committee, elementary reading specialist, and the Director of Instructional Services. It was also reviewed and endorsed by the District Curriculum Council. I was supposed to have a partner, Kathy Shimon, this evening, but unfortunately she also has a commitment in Clayton. But I do have my elementary principal colleagues in the audience, and I do want to state that this is a joint presentation, even though I am the sole speaker. Slide 1. What is a balanced reading, writing, and spelling program? In Hudson, we have defined this as a comprehensive and balanced approach to literacy. The approach means that there's a balance between reading and writing activities, between whole group instruction for modeling and direct instruction, as well as a balance between small dynamic groups that are at each child's instructional level, as well as independent work for fluency and mastery. Next, please. We talk about this being a collaborative model, and more than anything, as we've been discussing, we understand there's a very strong relationship between the classroom teachers and also those providing supplemental services that assist in the literacy instruction of students. And our plan really supports brain research that tells us the brain seeks repetition and patterns. And so as we're moving forward with our plan, we are seeking that common language throughout our elementary schools so that that brain can constant repetition from kindergarten through 5th grade, and that it does support best practice research. You have probably seen the next slide in past years as Kathy's presented some information on the 4 quadrants of literacy that we are talking about when we're talking about balanced reading, writing, and spelling. And I know I don't often say the speaking and listening, but that is the 4th quadrant. And you can see there that the 4 areas that we're going to focus on, the words really are reading workshop, writing workshop, and then spelling workshop. And within those, you can see that the components are, under the reading, that we're going to have the read aloud, the shared reading, guided reading and/or literature circles at your upper grade levels, and then independent reading. In writing, we still will hang on to our strong 6 traits training, but then also bring in the model of writing workshop, which includes shared writing, interactive writing, guided writing, and independent writing, and work through a strong framework there, and then incorporate a lot of our grammar work through our writing activities. The 3rd quadrant, spelling workshop, is not just talking about our traditional spelling as we've seen and heard in the past, but we're really talking a lot more of vocabulary work, working with words, so that in essence we're talking about how do words work. Phonemically, how do they work? The chunks that are known there, the root words, the suffixes, prefixes, really helping students dig into how the English language is put together. Next, we are going to talk about assessment and just some points that do draw us as to why would we move forward in the Hudson School District with focusing on reading, writing, and spelling. If we look at the 2004 data for grade 4 WKCEs, the Wisconsin Knowledge Concepts exams, we had 57% of our students in the advanced category, and when you combine advanced and proficient, we had 91%, which is actually very good, very outstanding scores. When I go out and look, and we often want to benchmark when we're looking at other districts in the state to see how we're doing, I did just happen to find, though, that Elmbrook and Cedarbrook both had 63% in the advanced category. So when we try to keep that concept, that philosophy of continuous improvement and benchmarking and see how we compare in the state, where can we also just keep driving? How much better can we get? And I like the title of the book, and I know many of you have probably seen it too. How can we move Hudson from that good to great? How can we take that next step? When we look at the 4th grade writing exam, you can see Hudson came out with an average of 4.8 and the state 4.8. I don't know about you, but I'd like to believe that we're above state average when it comes to writing. In grade 3, this will change this year. It will go to a WKCE as well, but last year we had 47% of our students advanced, and with a combination of advanced and proficient at 94.1. Again, I went out and did a little benchmarking and found Eau Claire had 49% at advanced, River Falls 57, Kimberly 58, Elmbrook 65, and Cedarburg 71% at advanced. So again, we have some room for improvement as we try to compare to other districts throughout the state. Our recent measures of academic progress, we have kind of our first fall to fall targets that we can kind of share a little bit, and the percent of students meeting their year growth target ranged anywhere, and this kind of is from the 3rd grade through the 9th grade, 52.8 to 63.6. Again, it's just our first year, but again, we want that to improve, that more students are meeting that full year's target. And then, of course, we can't leave out No Child Left Behind, that we need to have all students proficient in reading and mathematics by the year 2013-14. The professional learning plan that we are proposing, the Elementary Language Arts Committee and the elementary principals are recommending a 3 to 5 year plan to train all K-5 staff in implementing the various components of a balanced reading, writing, and spelling program. The professional learning would be accomplished through a combination of an external trainer and an internal literacy coach. The external trainer will provide the initial training of the various literacy components, while the internal trainer will provide teacher support through modeling and coaching. The elementary principals add a level of accountability by participating in the training themselves, conducting walkthroughs, establishing building literacy committees, building leveled libraries, and prioritizing their building schedules to reflect that reading, writing, and spelling are our priorities. I know I mentioned last month when we were talking the position of the literacy coach, some data that supports our efforts as we're moving forward. And this was also substantiated. Last week I had the opportunity to attend a reading conference with Carol Gilbert from the middle school. And I was surrounded by hundreds, literally hundreds of literacy coaches. And many districts throughout the nation actually have a literacy coach in every building, which was absolutely amazing. But we are definitely moving in the right track when you look at what's going on throughout the nation. The stats, this is actually from Joyce and Showers, who have done work in staff development and the impact of staff development. And in essence, what this is telling us, that if you attend a workshop, presentation of theory, overall you can gain knowledge at about the 85% level. And you can see that's pretty strong all the way down. If you go and attend something, yep, I can gain knowledge that way. But if we're actually now moving from not just knowledge, but implementation of practice in the classroom and getting to that far right column with application, notice what happens when that coaching piece is added. That's where we have that impact, where we're talking about the change occurring in the classroom. And that's actually the big change that's going to happen over the next 3 to 5 years, because we're moving from a model where we had before some teachers attending training to all teachers attending training, as well as the principals have been working on setting up high expectations, and high levels of support and accountability. And so that by next fall, we truly can share with the teachers what are the expectations we have and clearly defining those so no one has any surprises of when we come into their classrooms what we're going to expect for implementation. But that is a huge change for the style of staff we have had in Hudson in the past. And then finally, evaluation. We recognize that we do need a strong model to demonstrate that we do move from that change model of knowledge level to actually application in the classroom. We are still working on trying to define this, but to start, initially the plan will focus on leading staff through that change process. And through reading some of the experts, we actually recognize that that change process when it comes to educators first talks about the professional development. They need to attend the professional development and receive that knowledge level. Then we'll see a change in practice. Then we'll see a change in student achievement. And then finally, we'll see a change in belief and attitude. And so those are the kinds of the areas that when we're looking at evaluation that we want to look at first, that gain in knowledge, change in practice, change in student achievement, and then finally a change in attitude and belief. So through a combination of surveys, logs, observations, we'll be collecting data to demonstrate an increase in knowledge, implementation of practices in the classroom, and then eventually increases in student achievement and changes in attitude. So where are we currently on our journey? Currently there are 2 books, and I brought up about quality literacy practice, and I can almost say 100% of our teachers, elementary staff, are participating in a book study on these 2 books. Some of them had already read this book, so they're out there doing the reading with meaning at Willow River, but they're really delving into increasing their knowledge base and preparing for the next step when we start the staff development piece, the professional learning next year. Implementing reading assessments. We currently, this fall now, added a reading assessment that then focuses in on a little more detail of, I just want to make sure I have the right name. This year, a new reading assessment called the Developmental Reading Assessment, or the DRA, was added. Because what we want to do when we're looking at that assessment piece is not only focus on improving state tests, the once-a-year pieces. What's more important, obviously, is coming up with assessments that truly are at that classroom building level that guide instruction, multiple assessments. So one of the pieces we added this fall was the DRA. And teachers in grades 1 and 2 were trained this fall, and then K and 3 were brought on this spring. And what it does is it allows teachers, through a short assessment, to really pinpoint student strengths and weaknesses or their abilities as readers to guide their instructions. And then we're also having discussions underway as far as how to develop some type of district assessment in the area of writing. So when we begin the plan and start teaching teachers the writing workshop framework, then how do we go forward and come up with an assessment of writing and also rubrics, and then also some anchor papers so that we know what we're looking for. Finalizing the professional learning plan, shared that this evening, and then of course continuing our focus throughout this year and in the future on reading, writing, and spelling. They're truly, I think we're all in agreement, there's nothing more important at that elementary level than those 3 areas. And I'll take questions, and or I'll ask my team members to join me.
Thank you, Sandy. Board members have any questions, comments regarding this plan?
I like it.
I know I shared some of it last month, so it's not all new, I know.
Sandy, just a question regarding, and I know there's an ongoing assessment piece with this, and there's time that we have to allow it to get fully implemented, but what do you foresee as sort of the telling period of time when, you know, some of these pieces have come together and it's been implemented and we should potentially start seeing some positive results?
We're going to start with the writing workshop next fall with the intermediate, because it takes almost 2 full years for them to learn all those components that we saw in the writing workshop area. So when it comes to that piece, it's going to be at least 2 years before the teachers have all those components embedded in their classroom. And then, like you're saying, we need to recognize as our teachers, just like students, we need to recognize there's going to be differentiation needed. They aren't all going to move at the same pace. But I would guess that starting in year 2, of the training program that we will start looking at developing rubrics for writing, coming up with rubrics that talk to all of the genres. So we'll have one for narrative and descriptive and persuasive expository, and then pretty much define who's teaching what in what grade level, and then start probably by year 3 looking at student work seriously and coming up with that writing assessment. And obviously along the way with the reading, we've already got the DRAs started now in K3. We're going to examine where we want to go with 4th and 5th, but that will become tighter as they become more expert at administering that assessment. But very quickly we can start sharing with students and parents and board what's our average DRA score in 1st grade. And it'll be about somewhere in the range of 18 to 24. Then that can help our teachers guide, and parents also recognize where their students are and are they making that full year's worth of growth in their reading instruction.
I just want to add one thing, Mr. President.
Mary?
That as you know, we will be implementing SMART goals next year, and there will be teams trained at each of the buildings. We assume that there will be emphasis on literacy because of starting this plan. And so we will have some internal data that we will be able to focus on those results in a year. But once again, as I explained before, the first year is really a learning year with SMART goals, but we will be starting to monitor it, as Sandy said, and track data. I just think we need to recognize our elementary principals who really started this more than a year ago in their conversations and book studies with teachers, and then continued that on, and through Sandy's leadership as well, Kathy's leadership as to pulling that together so that we now have a very comprehensive plan to start implementing and monitoring those results. The district, obviously at 91% proficient advanced, 94% proficient advanced, is doing very well. We are looking at top performing districts in the state and starting to compare ourselves there. So we are raising the bar in Hudson to look at what else, how can we make our students more successful, as we know that reading and writing are crucial to your success all the way through school, all of the years in school and all content areas. So we're really focusing on this area, and I really thank our elementary principals for their leadership, our teachers who've contributed as well, and Sandy for us to really raise that bar in this area.
Well said, thank you. Any other comments on?
Mr. President.
Mr. Holland?
As a person in business, I see firsthand sometimes the lack of writing and skills and so forth. And so I certainly fully support this kind of effort. The question that I have, Sandy, is of the districts that are maybe a little slightly ahead of us in terms of performance, have they implemented this plan? Are they ahead of us in terms of how long they've been involved with a plan like this? Are their literacy coaches more numerous in those districts compared to us? I guess what I'm trying to get a feel for is how we compare in terms of what we have in resources compared to them.
I'm only aware of a few of the Wisconsin districts, but yes, a few of those that I mentioned have been working with the writing, reading, spelling workshop kind of training within their districts, and do have some model of literacy coach. Some have those positions, have more than one, and or use their reading specialist in a different role, and we're also examining that model as well. The other state that we can't compare state tests to, but that we did go and observe since we're so close, is many districts in Minnesota in the suburban area. And again, they have implemented the strategies and are seeing test scores increase.
Any further comments? If not, thank you, Sandy.
Thanks.
Good luck with that project. Next.
I just wanted to make one comment. We will be bringing this plan back for action at our next meeting.
Next item for business is correspondence. Do we have any correspondence? Does not appear to be any correspondence, so we'll move on to topics for action. Board members have received the list of consent items in their board packets, including expenditures in the amount of $1,245,000 $1,010.39. Do we have a motion to approve the consent items?
I move that we approve the Director of Finance of Operations be authorized to pay bills in the amount of $1,245,010.39.
We have a motion by Ms. Crimmins. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
A second by Mr. Munich.
Yes, sir.
Any discussion?
Point of clarification.
Yes.
Does the motion include the other consent items as well?
Yes.
Okay.
The communications plan, or the educational media technology plan, the youth options semester, personnel and expenditures.
So the motion is approval of all the consent items, the 4 items listed. We have a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, item 9B, building capacities. Mr. Minnick.
The document that I will refer to is the memo that the board saw last month, and for our new members is dated April 18th, 2006, to the Hudson Board of Education from Bob Benoit, RE, Facility Capacity Review. Is there anybody on the board, and I'll ask the 3 new members, do all of you have this in front of you and did have an opportunity? Okay, okay. So I think this evening, we did have a facilities committee meeting, and obviously this has been an item in front of the district for quite some time. And in the memo that came from Mr. Benoit as a representative of the administrative team, we saw the comparison from the original capacities that we had on the ATS&R report, which is a result of the facilities task force, a very preliminary or cursory review in the memo of each of the elementary schools. And then I think the most important, obviously, is the summary, where we have the comparison between what the facilities task force in conjunction with ATS&R was working on. Essentially, there's an increase of 465 students in the administrative team recommendations as opposed to what ATS&R had originally submitted. I think this is probably a good opportunity, I think, for questions, discussion. The administrative team is here. I think it is paramount, it is important. Huge ramifications of the discussion item that is in front of the board this evening. So I would close my comments with that, at least for introduction, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do we have any comments on the part of any others?
Well, Mr. President, I guess I would just make the comment that I did at the previous meeting, that fully support what Mr. Benoit and the administrative team did as far as taking ATS&R's comprehensive recommendation and in effect fine-tuning it specifically for our district. A lot of work went into this, going through building by building, looking for space, as it were, and very pleased to find out that we can, by maxing everything out, I mean, I think there's no question that this is really squeezing it pretty tight, but to increase our capacity by 10% over ATS&R, I think shows a real honest and good faith effort to maximize our buildings. And so I'm in complete endorsement of this recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Any other?
Mr. President, I too think it's a reasonable and a sound plan, although it be short term. one question that I have, and I believe that when I read the material or heard at some point in time that the projections going out through the years were with the assumption that there would be no additional growth. Is that correct? Was that correct on that? So obviously that's a bit of a concern. I mean, if we're at this...
Mr. Benoit, do you want to address that?
Okay, the projections, of course, are what we had Hazel Reinhardt do, and that projects the growth, her estimated growth over the years to come, whereas the capacities with the buildings are going to remain the same. So the comparison was the projected growth to the capacities. I think you might be referring to the next topic, which was, as we looked at what are we going to do short term, we didn't project any growth into that. Right.
Yeah, that's correct. That's what I was referring to, and I apologize for that misunderstanding. So I guess if there's any concern here, it would be that we're under the assumption that there would not be growth, and although that probably shouldn't be an assumption that we should make. Given that as a point, what this does for us is gives us a window of time to address a long-term solution. But in essence, the window may be shorter than what we think. Am I correct about this, or is there some corrections to this I should
Can
know
I
about?
respond to that?
Ms. Crimmins.
I think what this does is that, and I really support having gone out to the buildings and taken all of the expert advice that we got in our own experience and our own expertise that we have in the district, and determining that this is the maximum use of our space. So what that means is that when we get to these capacities, there's no more room. There's no more hallway space to put a computer lab at the end of, and there's no more place to build in a restroom for a nurse's office, and there's no more, I mean, there's just no more space. So I think from my perspective, what happens when we exceed these capacities is that we need to be prepared to exceed these capacities, and it's going to happen. All indications are it's going to happen. I suspect because we're already ahead of the projections, I agree with you, I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later. But what this does give us, I think, is what's known in my field as a drop-dead date. It's the point after which there isn't any more time or space in these buildings. And I'm very willing to accept this expanded capacity under those under that understanding.
Well, I believe the process that we've followed throughout the last few years is, one, we employed the task force to look at this issue, and they spent countless hours looking at each of our facilities as well as the capacities and getting the assistance through the professionals, ATS&R, on those capacities. And we have those recommendations from the task force, and then, in addition to that, we've done the surveying, and now the administrative team has yet again gone back, working with each of our principals and just trying to find out, is there some way we can squeeze out some additional space out of these facilities? We've been able to do that. So I think what this report is saying to me is that, we've taken yet another look at our facilities, keeping in mind what our class size ranges are, and, said this is where we can be with the facilities.
The one comment that I would make is I think the item in front of the board tonight is specifically what are the capacities, and what are the capacities that are listed in the memo that came from the administrative team. I know that accompanying those capacities in the summary were projections for growth out into the future, but I think that We need to take it a step at a time, and I think the first step is to really understand and support, endorse, et cetera, what we have for current capacity. And as an example, I'll just use EP Rock in Hudson Prairie. I don't think it's anybody's surprised that the capacities at both Rock and Hudson Prairie are at 588. We are over this year, both those capacities, and fair to say, I think most everybody would agree that it's tight. We are about maxed out. And I think the real difference that we have between ATS&R at 480 versus 588 that came from the administrative team, I think is twofold. One is we are at 588 basically today and functioning and operating, but at a maximum. And the second was that the 480 on the part of ATS&R was really determined more on the width of the hallways at EP Rock, and all you have to do is be in the two buildings and you'll see a dramatic difference between the width of the hallways in a newer facility like Hudson Prairie versus EP Rock. And I think we can understand where ATS&R was coming from, but suffice to say we are at that basically at 588 figure at EP Rock. So I think the action or the item in front of the board tonight is, do we concur with what came from our administrative team in terms of the capacities at our schools, at the 7 schools, including the middle school and the high school?
Okay, we do have an audience request to speak on this topic. Mr. Weiss, would you like to come forward? You have 5 minutes, please, to speak on this topic.
My name is Kurt Weiss. I live at 613 Cedar Drive North. I just had a couple of questions, actually, if I could maybe ask the board members the questions. Is there any written information available on how the capacities were determined? I know I asked that. Is there documentation as to how what's available in the buildings as far as classrooms? And
do you have any other questions or comments?
Okay. We go along. Do I just get to ask the questions and you'll go ahead, or what? How does that work? I mean, you've got an item for action. Can't we just ask a question?
Well, you can speak to this specific item, so if you have anything else you want to speak to, go forward. Go ahead.
Okay. I'll ask the questions and sit down. I guess that's the protocol. I don't know why you have that protocol. I mean, to me, it doesn't seem very good. Okay, the first question was, is there any written information available on how the capacities were determined? For instance, do we have a list of the number of regular education classrooms here at the high school? Those types of things. Do we have that written down? Does curriculum, such as freshman year initiative, affect capacity, increasing that a quarter of an hour at the high school? Does that affect capacity? Does the hiring of non-teachers, such as a third assistant principal at the high school, psychologists, social workers, communications consultants, literacy coaches, affect capacity? Does the contract calling for 5 hours of instruction versus, let's say, 6, or versus using classroom for instruction in the other 2 hours, does that affect capacity? In other words, at the high school, when you determine capacity, is that every classroom being utilized for instruction every single hour, or were there hours during the day where those classrooms were not utilized for instruction, such as study hall? And the last one is, does the number of credit hours required for graduation, which is 2 higher, I believe it's 2 higher than what's on the Wisconsin Department of Education website, does that affect capacity, requiring those extra hours? Those are my questions.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mary.
Mr. President, I would just like to make a comment to the board that Mr. Weiss does have a records request in right now to ask for some of that information, and we will be responding to him. Of course, just a general comment for your information, our program does affect our capacity. Our primary purpose is to educate our students, and that program is what we deliver in our schools to our students every day. So of course it does affect capacities, as well as the number of classrooms we have, as well as the guidelines that you have set for class sizes.
Anyone else on?
So what we need is a motion to approve the capacities for buildings as they have been rewritten by the proposed by the administrative
Correct.
team.
I think we're looking for a motion to approve the revised capacities for each of our facilities.
Well, then I'd like to move that we approve the revised capacities for each of our buildings.
Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
We have a motion by Cindy Crimmins and a second by Mr. Holland. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? The motion is carried. Topics for action, item number C, elementary short-term space recommendation. Mr. Benoit, can you address that?
Right. I've handed out an updated version of the same report that I gave to you last board meeting on elementary class size. And I'd like to go through I promise I'm not going to go through every number on here, but I would like to go through some of the assumptions to remind you what the assumptions were, and then just some general comments about what our short-term plan is going to be for what we would like to present for the next year or 2 years. If you look under assumptions, maybe one of the most important things is what we were talking a little bit about earlier. The numbers on here do not reflect growth. These are not projections. These are, other than kindergarten, the second year, these are students that we have. They are our students. The kindergarten numbers that were used were from the kindergarten roundup, and that number oftentimes changes, goes up, and can actually go down. The enrollment numbers that are on here now, the last time you saw this, they were based on April 1st numbers, so they're now based on May 1 count. This does not include early childhood. We continue to use the same class size guidelines that the Board of Education put in place probably a couple years ago now. Relocation of students will be done by volunteers, students without siblings in school, and students new to the district. We're attempting to keep siblings together. And once reassigned, students can stay in that particular building unless new space is added through a new building or through a renovation or any way that we acquire new space in their attendance area. I guess I'd like you to focus on the blue down the center, which is 0607. I'll remind you the green is 0506. That's how many sections we have in each of those buildings in each of our elementaries this year, and then 06, 07 in blue in the middle. And once again, I won't go through all of these again, but to highlight a few things, by and large, since last meeting, these numbers have gotten larger. They haven't gotten smaller in general, but they haven't increased in leaps and bounds either. This plan will, if you look at the blue, concentrating on the blue, will leave us with about 6 or 7 capped grades at 2 different buildings. And again, cap means the high end of our classroom guidelines. Once we get to that, we'd like to cap that and not compromise the quality of education in those buildings. It doesn't always come out perfect. You're going to see some 22.6 or maybe see a 26.8, but those in both cases are very close. And like I said, this would leave us capped at 6 or 7 places next year, or I should say grade levels next year, primarily in EP Rock and Hudson Prairie, And then we'll be getting close. Some other buildings, I would draw your attention to North Hudson. In kindergarten, we'll have 21 with a cap at 22. And in second grade, we have 21.3 with a cap at 22. So we're really creeping up to an even larger number of capped sites. But with the plan in blue, we think we'll be able to accommodate our needs for next year. At EP Rock, just to quickly run through the number of sections, we will drop from 27 to 26 sections because we're going to have 4 sections of kindergarten. And if you recall that the last meeting, we like to think of Rock as a 4-section building ideally. And that's what that 588 capacity size is based on. You'll see there'll be 612, I should say approximately 612 next year. So they will be, according to the capacities that you just endorsed, will be over capacity. At Hudson Prairie, we will continue with 27 sections, which will leave us with approximately 626 students. Their capacity is 588. That's the second building that will be over capacity. Willow River will go from 19 to 20 sections. Remember, that's where we're going to pick up 1 section of kindergarten as we're bringing kindergartners from EP Rock and Hudson Prairie to that site, to give some relief to the EP Rock and Hudson Prairie sites. However, like I said, that will add 1 section there. Capacity 441 will be at 398. However, remember, we do have early childhood classes, our early childhood program at that site. North Hudson at 441, their number's looking to be about 453. We're not changing the number of sections, but again, that's the 3rd site that will be over capacity. In Holton, we are the same number of sections next year, and they will be at about 207 students and well under the capacity of 294. So by and large, with the space that we have now and doing
for more space, and we need to do it soon.
I'd just like to make one more comment before I'm quiet on this subject.
Ms. Crimmins.
Thank you. Mr. Minnick, last month when we met, you said something that I haven't been able to get out of my mind, and that is, you were talking about the quality of education and the classroom of experience of a first grader in a building where the class size is 12 to 18 versus a similar student in another building where the class size is maxed out or over our guidelines. And, you know, we just can't take that lightly. The difference classrooms has twice the number of students in it. And I mean, I really don't want us to forget that. And I think that for that reason, the idea of asking some people to volunteer to go to one of the buildings where there is space is a great one. I'd love it if we could just, stop building houses except for in that one area of the city for a year, to fill up that building. I think that's not realistic. But I just don't want us to forget that this really is about the quality of education taking place in the classroom, and there are equity issues that are involved with us making decisions to raise classroom sizes that will affect some buildings differentially and some students differentially. And I think that's not ethical.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments? Questions? Certainly, this is an important issue. We have to put together a plan for the next 2 years to deal with this issue, and I think this is a very good strategic way of dealing with the growth at the elementary level. We've talked about the building capacities. That's certainly something we as a board have to establish in terms of how big we want these schools to be. We've set that in place. So that said, do we wish to, as a board, make a motion to approve this elementary class size plan as we have it before us, or are there any further questions, especially the newer board members here?
Mr. President, if there are no, Mr. Bell?
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, if there are no further questions or comments, I would make the motion to endorse this solution for the space issues at our elementary level.
Over two-year period?
Over the 2-year, yes, just as presented here with the two-year plan.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Kaiserschott, a second by Mr. Bell. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. The motion is approved. Next item, topic for action, CISA number 11, annual convention appointment. Mary, do you want to talk on that topic?
Right. Mr. President, in your board materials on page 199, it identifies our responsibility to appoint a delegate to the CISA 11 convention.
I've been the delegate for the last 2 years, and it's a delightful evening. Yes, it was me. Yes.
Is that an indication, Mr. Minnick, that you would like to continue to serve in that capacity?
I'm just sharing with the fellow board members that it's a delightful evening.
I think that cries for a motion.
I think
I haven't looked at my schedule.
Okay.
You know, quite frankly, speaking candidly, I sound facetious, but it really is a good opportunity to get out and see the other school districts that are in the CISA district. You know, our CISA 11 is based out of Turtle Lake, and it's the annual meeting and meeting of the board of directors, and it really gives you an opportunity to really hear what's going on with some of the other school districts in our CISA area, our immediate area.
Certainly our involvement in CISA 11 has been valuable to the school district, and our bringing back and participating in the CISA 11 activities has really been valuable. So
we should at least probably pick a primary and an alternate.
Okay.
I'll volunteer to be the primary, and again, I truly have not looked at my schedule.
Okay.
To know if I'm in town or not.
Do we have any volunteers as alternate?
I'll volunteer
Tracy?
as an alternate.
Okay, Tracy Aline. So we have Mr. Minnick as our primary candidate and Tracy Habish-Aline as the alternate. Yes. Do I have a motion for those nominations?
Mr. President, I would move that we appoint Mr. Minnick as the primary attendee of this event as well, and then Ms. Habish-Aline as the secondary.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Holland, a second by Ms. Crimmins. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Thank you for both of those individuals willing to serve in that capacity. Next item for action is a telephone communication system upgrade, and Nancy Toll.
Hi, on pages 203 to 205 of your board packet, you kind of have a summary of a process we've been going through over the past year, looking at our telephone communication system. I don't want to hit every point there, but just to add some background here, almost a year and a half ago, the company that installed and serviced 6 of our 8 separate phone systems, I want to emphasize separate, they're all different phone systems in the district, went out of business without any warning and without leaving any setup data that could help the district try and manage the phone systems on its own. At that time, the IT department was called in to try and help support the phone systems, but since all the phone systems are old analog-based, the IT department can do little more than help identify whether a problem is phone, line, or PBX related. At that same time, we also called companies in the Twin Cities and surrounding area for support. Once we told them what systems the district was currently running, no one wanted to even try and help us troubleshoot our problems, except for Baldwin Telecom, whose first recommendation was to come in with a replacement. They actually came in with a proposal the next day to replace our phone system into a consolidated system. In the meantime, Baldwin Telecom, they have done their best to try and troubleshoot our problems with us, but we are missing passwords into our systems. We have no schematics on how the systems are currently set up. This all came about at approximately the same time the district was starting to look at identifying barriers to effective communication, both internal and external. Knowing this, the Communications Committee discussed the need for updating the current phone system, and the Technology Council also recommended an update in the technology plan. The Finance Committee recommended hiring a consulting firm to study our current systems and make recommendations. Intrepid communications consultants out of Eau Claire were hired, and last fall and conducted an evaluation of our system. They found that the lack of a common communication platform caused degraded user experiences and an elevated cost of operation. 3 of the current systems are no longer supported by the manufacturer, and the only parts available are aftermarket or refurbished. If any of the older systems fail, there may be no other option but to replace them in an emergency situation at a much higher cost than necessary. Along with performance and ease of issues, the current system is also very costly to operate in comparison to much of the advanced technology available today. Current integrated systems are projected to operate at a cost reduction of over $16,700 per year, and even more importantly, the current phone systems are inadequate to handle certain emergency situations, like identifying locations of 911 calls, silently announcing intruder alerts to the classroom, and direct dialing of rooms after office hours. Intrepid made the following recommendations, and you have those. I just kind of outlined some of these things. Our current phone contracts are coming due, and they recommended using our best value guarantee with PowerCom that could save us approximately $300 a month. To consolidate our lines with SBC, and then if we ran an internal system on our own data network, we'd avoid Centric's charges, reducing bills of around $3,600 a month. Consolidating our 114 single lines coming in to 4 main ISDN prime circuits. Existing phone systems are at end of life and not supported by the manufacturer for repair parts and service, and the cost of emergency replacement of a system that fails will be much higher than a planned installation of a system with detailed specifications relating to the district's current needs and future growth. Administration staff and constituents in the district are dealing with systems that are dissimilar, and many of the systems either do not have voicemail or have voicemail that is cumbersome for callers as well as end users. Technology available today can enhance the productivity and safety of staff and students. Examples of this would be classroom phones on timers to ensure no interruptions during class time except in emergencies. Administrators and safety officials can track 911 calls from inside the district as well as prank or threatening calls from outside the district. Parents will be able to leave attendance or teacher information for staff to answer at non-peak times during the day. And staff who are working after hours can be reached even if no one is in the office. Based on these findings, the Board Finance Committee approved hiring Intrepid for the purposes of creating an RFP for telephone services for the district. 8 companies responded to the RFP with final proposals ranging in around these $387,000 to $507,000. The companies were narrowed down to 3 based on the proposals and pricing. These companies, Marco, Burby, and Echelon, came in and made presentations to a group of administrators, secretaries, and ICT staff. This group narrowed the companies down to 2, Burby, which proposed a Cisco solution, and Marco, which proposed a Mitel solution. I went and visited both places to see how the administration of the product worked because we were assuming IT management of a system that with no added staff here. We created a list of pros and cons for each company, and in consultation with Intrepid, we would make the recommendation that a contract be made with Marco for a Mitel solution for $404,981. This would be to plan, install, train, and help support a new phone system for the district. Have any questions? Or?
Any questions, comments by board members? Mr.
President, Nancy, do you have someone on your staff that can manage that the infrastructure for this phone network?
Yes, yeah. Not our current, but a new one, because it would be an IP and run off our network.
So a new person or?
No, we have current staff that could handle this.
Yeah. So how much, so how much is Marco, so that support cost, is someone kind of on call? What kind of support costs are you talking about there?
The RFP requested that, and this can still be negotiated, that 1 year of support be included. So a full 24/7 year of support is included in this price, and then that price can be reduced in our final contract if negotiated, if we feel that wouldn't be necessary. And they are even recommending that that wouldn't probably be necessary.
Okay. Thank you.
Nancy, did you have the opportunity to call you have a list of references here, and I noticed St. Croix County is included in these entities that have this phone system.
Yes, I did. And that was really one of the big pros for recommending Marco, was over and over again we heard about their support and training and their implementation. And it was just, not that Burby's wasn't good, but theirs was just outstanding, glowing.
Can you also speak to the fact that this was not the lowest option available to us?
Yes, Burby's actually was a little bit lower, but over time, maintaining a Cisco system was going to be more expensive than maintaining a Mitel system. So actually, this was lower ongoing costs than a Burby system was.
Mr. President, I have a question. Nancy, can you tell us financially how you have planned for this?
I've been saying no a lot recently to requests. Basically, we knew that this was something that we were looking at and planning for, and so that we have planned for it through our IT budget, for both partially payment for in the 05-06 budget and 06-07.
So you're not asking for additional monies for this?
No.
Within the budget, within our IT budget, dollars that have already been allocated?
Right.
Mr. President, thank you.
Mr. Kaiser.
Thank you. Nancy, am I right in assuming there would be some operational savings with the new system as well over what we currently have?
Yes, Intrepid, they first kind of predicted that we'd at least see around a $16,000, almost $17,000 reduction per year in operating costs. And we think we'll see more than that because of service calls we're currently paying for Baldwin Telecom to actually have to travel here and try and troubleshoot. And sometimes it's taken 3 days just to get a simple phone hooked up because of the current system we have. And that's a lot of travel and on-site time that we're paying for right now.
Thank you.
Nancy, after we've been with this system a year and our support from them has expired, will we have people in place to sort of pick up those pieces, or will we be depending on having them come back in and, assist with the support?
Well, we have the options of, so did they have 3 different tiers of support that we can look at, but we're very hopeful that I mean, we feel pretty confident that we're now looking at data systems versus a voice system, and our people are trained to know how to take care of things like that. So other than having to actually, we might have to purchase a phone that goes bad, something like that. But
any idea how long we can expect to have a system like this? I know it fits into that technology category, and how technology can become obsolete after a period of time. Can we?
Intrepid thought, we're looking at least 10 years, but what's nice about an IP phone system is when you upgrade, you're upgrading the software. You don't have to upgrade all the hardware that goes with it, and so an upgrade to a system like this is much cheaper than having to replace a typical PBX system.
Mr. President, if I may, just one more question, Nancy. In light of the fact that our company that was presently servicing us here went belly up last year without any notice, has somebody looked into, I believe it's Marco, to kind of see what their history and track record is?
Yeah, that was one of we had criteria set out for us with help from Intrepid of how we looked at the RFPs, and that was the top priority, was the strength of the companies. And both Burby and Marco, Burby is one of the top Cisco retailers in the nation. Marco is one of the top Mitel in our region, and both were very strong.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Ms. Crimmins.
it sounds like you've just really done the research. I want to just thank you for being so fluent in the knowledge that we need to have about this contract and really taking the time to examine all the options. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your ability to answer the question.
Align itself with the direction we're going with our communication efforts and improving that, so I guess it seems reasonable for us to look at this as well.
Mr. Chair, I have a question as well, and this was discussed at length at the Finance Committee. This is a lot of money, and I probably have two comments. One is looking at it, and I'll make the same comment I made at the Finance Committee. It's much more a communication system, or has to be much more a communication system than it does a telephone system. And I know you gave us some good responses on that. That made me feel a little bit more comfortable. The second issue is the adding on of the software packages or the upgrading. And I know the company I work for, we just went to voice recognition. Is that a software capability 5 years, 10 years down the road that you would have that voice recognition capability?
Actually, this system will have that built in. Does it have that when a caller calls, I didn't finish that part. It was getting kind of long. But we'll have the ability to, if you don't know a person extension's number, I could say Bob Benoit and it will find that phone.
So, is that part of the package that we would be purchasing?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And so each of the, and again, I think I know the answer, I just, in a public venue, I want to ask the question. I think it's imperative that each individual phone have its own number, and that is a capability that this system is going to deliver.
Yes, yeah. And that's a big part of the planning up front. We plan to say, with any phone system, we plan to spend the majority of the time in planning out just exactly what's going to happen to this call as it comes to the district. What do you want to have happen to it to handle it in the most efficient manner? And part of it is a dial plan, where maybe all high school numbers start with an our 8,000s, and then at each, in the middle school might be 6,000. Well, then the principal's office would all be 001, so you'd have 8,001, 6,001, 4,001, and people then could help. That alone helps ease the use of the system, because we have consistent numbers for principal's office, nurse's office, media centers, common numbers that teachers and outside callers are using.
Mr. Fett has been very quiet tonight. I would like to ask him a question. Again, it's a lot of money. And it's got to be a system that we're going to live with for a long time. So it's exactly what Ms. Crimmins asked. We're budgeted 0506 and 0607, two different annual budgets.
That is correct. And I want to give Nancy Toll a lot of credit. She did a lot of work on this. She figured out her budget, what she needed to do up front, and realized that it's a lot of money. We realize that, and I think it's just a matter of time, and the system was causing a lot of problems.
Yeah. It is an archaic system, I mean, let's be honest.
Oh.
It's frightening when you call in and want to leave a voicemail and you hit pound 77 and then 99 star, and it's kind of shaky at best. But
well, in fact, Mr. Minnick, I think
one more comment too. I'm sorry.
I did walk by one office and I thought I saw somebody turning a crank on the phone. Anyway, Mr. Bell.
Just new to the board, just philosophically, I think we should really, when we have these kind of things, really evaluate kind of software features we're buying, because every software feature you buy is going to have a software maintenance associated with it. And I think we really just, as you're going through this thing, just make sure that it's not nice to haves on the software features. It's stuff that we actually can use every day, number one. And number two is, all these companies are dying for references and things like that. and as you're talking with them, leverage the fact that, you'd be an advocate for them, and sometimes they will, they'll do things in terms of price and things like that for you. I just want to make sure we're talking about those kind of things when we put our $400,000 phone system in, so.
Good point.
Mr. President and board members, Nancy has done a lot of work on this, is very knowledgeable about this area. And as we look at this implementation with your approval, there will be a lot more work to come. It's a timing issue. We need to get started on that so that the system can be put in place this summer, and then we can train all staff as they come back, and we can have an efficient running system in the fall. What is really nice is the idea of flexibility. We can move a staff member. The number could stay the same with that staff member. We can move a location. We've talked about additional facilities needed. We have a lot of flexibility with this system that will be helpful to us, not only as we implement it, but in the future as well.
Thank you. Mr. Bell?
I just want to make a motion.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the telephone communication system as briefed by Nancy Toll.
We have a motion by Mr. Bell. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second by Mr. Munich. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion is passed. That concludes the topics for action. We'll move on to topics for discussion. We have Mr. Munich talking or giving us some information on board committee structure.
Well, I'll make this very brief. I feel like I'm talking a little bit too much tonight, but I've been an advocate, as the past board members know, about a restructuring of the board to really focus in on what I described at the last board meeting of really the two primary functions of the district. One is the education of our students, and the second function being the support venues to the education of our students. I know that the process to reorganize from more of a traditional type board structure to, I guess, one that I would call maybe a little bit more contemporary, I think is fraught with questions. I'm glad it's on for a discussion item tonight. I'm not sure if the chair is amenable to a committee, or if this is something that you want to refer to the administrative team to come back with even just an outline. But I think it's something that I think with the issues in front of us, strategic planning, facilities planning, there's going to be a lot on the plate of this board, and I have some concerns on time allocation and burning out this board with the issues that are going to be in front of us over the next 12 months. So it's something that I think we're going to have to form, or not, you are, Mr. Chair, going to have to form the committees under our existing format, but I would certainly like to see us take a look at some type of direction to study, discuss, and talk about a possible reorganization of the board.
I'd like to support that. I'd like to support that. I agree with Board Member Minnick that the structure that we've had for committees has, it's been interesting, and I've had an opportunity to serve on a lot of the committees already. I think that in some ways we need some more modern language. I would, for instance, maybe suggest a committee that focuses on student learning, and that might be a committee that would take the place of our representation on the Pupil Services Council, the Curriculum Council, the Activities Council. It might be a board that would be concerned with what's happening with student learning in the classroom, as well as things that affect student learning, the support, in-school support services, the tutoring, and all of those kinds of behaviors. Probably it would be a great idea for us to combine our facilities and our finance, because with some of the facilities issues that we've got coming up, those two pieces are so entwined that I'm not sure one committee can talk about them without talking about the other part of it. You know, we should maybe have a discussion about that. And I think that to have a committee that is looking at planning and continuous improvement in the district is really important. And I think it's possible that we might be able, I mean, to cover it with 3 or 4 committees, maybe a human resources committee that looks at how we're developing leadership as well as the personnel and contract issues and those kinds of things. We could probably do it in 4 committees that have a broader function and a more holistic approach to the work of the district. And so I guess I just wanted to say I support Dick. I can envision a model in which we could look at these committees differently, and I hope that we'll have that conversation.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I'm not as familiar as the veteran board members here of the committee structure. However, I would speak from a perspective of my own background that what I believe should drive committee structure is strategic planning, and our strategic plan, be it as it is now or would be modified here in the future, should really identify for us the committees needed. And I agree with Board Member Crimmins in that we need to be viewing things from a holistic, a big picture approach, not getting into operations, things, that type of thing. I think boards, as I understand it, and I understand that school boards to be needed for those bigger picture items, and so that would be my encouragement as well.
Thank you. Any other board members wish to comment on this topic? I guess my 2 cents worth would be, yes, I think we need to move in that direction, but we have work at hand that we need to have an existing structure deal with. So I guess my recommendation would be that, you know, we maintain the current committee structure, and I think Mr. Munich, you're suggesting that, and then continue to look at ways that we can possibly merge committees or come up with, you know, some new committee structures and doing the business of the board. I also think we have some opportunities coming up, such as item further down regarding board work sessions. And as Mr. Holland pointed out, the strategic planning process is coming up. So I think those are some opportunities for us to have further discussion on this topic. Okay, no other comments, questions on that item. We'll move on to topic for discussion, item 10B, healthcare savings plan. Arnie?
If everybody would just turn to page 209, in there is a brief summary that we included in the board packet. It's an overview of the healthcare savings plan. Most of you, or maybe many of you, have already have this at your own work sites. But what this, it's not a new benefit of any sort. What it does basically do is take the current benefits and allows the employer and the employee the opportunity to save, for the employer, allows you to save the Social Security tax that you would have to pay on any retirement benefits that maybe are paid out, and allows the employee to save, it's a pre-tax type issue, so it allows the employee to pay on any incentives that the district has already currently have under contract to get those, so there's no Social Security paid on that either, or taxes. So basically, this is a plan that was the tax code, the IRS tax code put into place in January of 2002 to deal with these situations. And I guess we would like to put this in front of the board. The board does have to implement this program, if you might say, but it is, what I said, kind of a win-win for both the employee and the employer, and it's not a new benefit. But I do wish, we do want this to be on for discussion this time and possibly action at the June meeting. And so since you've all had an opportunity probably to read it, is there anybody that has any questions concerning this type of plan?
Yeah, I do.
Ms. Crimmins.
Sorry. Is this one of those things that has been put into law that we have to formally act on, but we don't have a choice about whether or not we accept?
No, it's
good.
not.
Okay. I'm always surprised when those happen.
No, this was not.
I would imagine you've met with or talked to representatives of
yes, we have.
different employee groups. And they're very supportive of it.
Yeah.
This is not, this is a fairly traditional type benefit.
We talked about this last year at the Personnel Committee a year ago. I think Mark was on that committee. There weren't too many people left on that committee here tonight, but we did talk about it, and we decided to bring it back to the board this year and not wait, because we put in a different, one was more of a TSA plan last year, and now this is a health savings plan this year. And like I said, it's a very popular out there I think in the private sector as well as the public sector.
I know it's a benefit I've had for 10 plus years.
Sure. I mean, the bottom line, everybody saves taxes. Costs us nothing. We save taxes. Employees save taxes.
We didn't do it last year, didn't bring it forward last year because we really wanted to see, because we hadn't done this type of thing before, we wanted to see how the other one that we put into place did work and if people liked it. And it seems to be very, very well accepted, and I think everybody, like I said, comes out on it.
Okay. Any additional comments, questions for Arnie? If not, we'll bring this back for action the next month's meeting. Topic 10C, board work section. I asked Mary to put this on the agenda for this evening because about a month ago, we had one of these work sessions with the board, and I sense that, including myself, that it was a very meaningful experience for board members to have that time to sort of discuss and brainstorm on how we can become a more effective board and set some priorities for us. And my thought was that we should try to schedule one or two of these sessions during the summer. So I put that on there just to get input from board members and possibly, discuss whether something like that should occur during the week or weekends. I know weekends can be sort of precious for all of us, but I think we'd probably be looking at maybe a couple 3-hour sessions, 2-3 hour sessions. Any comments?
Yes, I do. Can we have a session on talking about board structure? I would really like that. Yes, I absolutely would like that. And I think 3 or 4 sessions of a couple of hours each, I so much support that. I so much wish we would have work sessions more often. And I would suggest that maybe we could submit our calendars for the month of June and see what we could identify as a good time.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments?
Mr. President, I'll just also weigh in that I would enthusiastically support some more board work sessions. Like you, I found the last one to be absolutely invaluable, and I think particularly now with 3 new members, it will be particularly beneficial. So I would encourage us to schedule some more this year.
Okay.
Mr. President, I was able to sit in on the last board session, didn't get to say anything, would love a chance to be able to say something. But we have a lot of work ahead. Some of the things that we've talked about here tonight with the facilities and the strategic plan, I don't see that getting done unless we have some of those longer sessions where we can really talk.
That's a good point. Certainly, what we've covered tonight is just the beginning of a lot of things that this board has to work on. So I'm sensing, based on these comments, that we're in favor of doing those sessions, and possibly over the next few weeks we'll try to connect with board members and see if we can figure out a time and a schedule to do that. Moving on to board committees, advisory council reports. Mr. Munich, can you report on the facilities committee meeting on May 2nd?
Happy to do that. And again, I will be very brief with my comments. For the benefit of the new board members, one of the things that I think we have kind of a philosophy in the Hudson School District is if you look at our facilities, they're not going to be Taj Mahals, but they're going to be very functional, straightforward facilities. But part and parcel to that is kind of an ethic of maintaining what we have. And one of the things that we consistently hear from visitors to our school district is that our facilities are well maintained and doing an excellent job for the school district. So my report basically would say as far as the facilities committee meeting, we've met fairly frequently here over the last couple months, mainly kind of gearing up for the summer. And summer is obviously the time when our construction projects are underway. We will be doing the typical roofing projects this year. And again, that's kind of an ethic that we have in the district that first and foremost, we're going to take care of the roofs. We're not going to be having a problem with leakage and mold. So we'll have the typical roof construction projects. We're doing some tuck pointing on one of our buildings. We'll be doing a athletic field at the middle school. I think that's kind of woefully overdue. That school is now about 12 years old, and we will be putting a running track, asphalt running track up there, along with a football and soccer field on the inside of that track. We'll be doing some improvements up at Newton Field, both on lighting and on the track. I think that summarizes the major projects that we have ongoing, and I'd certainly be happy to field any questions from current or carryover board members as well as new board members on facilities.
Mr. President, I have one question.
Yes.
When we were doing the facilities task force walkthrough of the middle school, it was raining that day, and there was some buckets in different sections of the middle school. Is that still an issue for us? Is it still?
I'm going to pass that over to Mr. Fett.
Well, it's an ongoing issue if the rain comes from the east.
On a windy day.
On a windy day.
Yeah.
And we have had the inspec out there, who are known as the experts in trying to find, we always find something, but we're just waiting for the heavy rain to come from the east again to see if we have more leaks. Once we fix it, it seems, well, unless there's another rain coming from the east, a strong one. But yes, we think we fixed that one the day you were out there. That's just a problem because it's a big building and all it does is take a little hole for it to come through.
It's an excellent question, though, and I think you and I are on that same tour that day, and here we had the water buckets out, and so I don't know if I haven't had any feedback of what happened yesterday with the heavy rain. I don't know. If it wasn't out of the east, we're probably okay.
Well, it wasn't out of the east.
So we're okay.
It's okay.
It's strange, but
Well, my only comment is, it's just we laugh at it now, but, what a, basically, what a frustrating experience that is to spend that kind of money and have a leak in the roof, right? And so, hopefully we're better prepared next time. So, thanks.
Good point, thank you.
Otherwise, that's the only comments I have.
I can report on the Finance Committee meeting that was held last week, and many of the items that were on our agenda we've already covered this evening regarding the healthcare savings plan, the telephone systems. We did have a discussion on our current bus company situation and the possibility of extending the contract with the bus company. I think we're exploring that. Health and dental rate increases, Arnie shared that with the committee, and those were relatively significant. I think we're looking at approximately 19% increase for both health, and the dental was closer to 10%. As compared to last year, I think we're in single-digit increases. So, I think we're seeing those costs escalate as we go forward. So, it's certainly not positive news that we'd like to hear, but something that we have to deal with. We also talked about the current budget, where we're at with that, and also our ongoing development of the 06-07 budget process. That took care of the Finance Committee meeting. Next item is, unless anybody has any questions regarding the Finance Committee, next item is the Superintendent's report on Education Foundation.
I have the privilege of talking once again about the Education Foundation and the grants that they have allocated both to our district, St. Pat's and Trinity. On May 1st, 33 applications were submitted for grants, and the Education Foundation supported 21 of those, either fully or partially funded those. The St. Pat's received $3,650, Trinity received $2,713, and Hudson Schools received $35,764. That's a total of over $42,000 that the Education Foundation once again has supported the improvement of education innovation in our schools, and just kudos for them for continuing to support the work of our teachers to enhance the learning opportunities of our students and the students at both St. Pat's and Trinity. I also but I want to talk about the staff recognition banquet that is tomorrow evening. Thanks to Bob Benoit and his department. Diane Radel has done an excellent job supporting that as well. We have the wonderful opportunity to recognize our previous board members and their contributions to our district, Annette Cook, Nancy Donovan, and Priscilla Wyeth. We will also be recognizing our employees who have served the district for 10 years and actually up to 35 years of contributions to our district. So I think that's just absolutely a wonderful time that they have contributed so much to our district and our students and to this community. And then we have the honor of recognizing 22 of our retiring employees. And we have 2 of those sitting with us right now, Bob and Arnie. They will be 2 of those individuals who will be honored at our banquet tomorrow night. And I know most of the board will be able to attend that banquet and is actually participating in the honoring of our employees. So I look forward to a wonderful celebration tomorrow evening.
Thank you, Mary. And just a brief comment on the Education Foundation. That Hudson is unique in having this foundation in our community and provides a great deal of support, as Mary just pointed out, for a lot of innovative and creative projects by teachers, staff, administrators. Without that funding, a lot of those creative, great projects wouldn't happen, or they'd become, they would have to come through us on the board to get the appropriate funding for those projects. So I think it's important for us to recognize how unique Hudson is in receiving, having the foundation in this community. Next item, citizens' request to speak to the board. We do have a request. Mr. Weiss? And again, thank you for keeping your comments to 5 minutes.
I would have to say it's fascinating to watch you guys. You spend money like water dripping from a leaky ceiling. We talk about a health savings plan when that's mainly designed for people with high deductibles like myself, $5,000 deductibles that I have, $15,000 a year family. At the same time, we're talking about saving the teachers a little money with a health savings plan. They refuse to allow the district to bid out insurance, saving us probably $500,000 a year for the taxpayers. So I find it fascinating that you have that kind of a priority up there that you're listening. What a beautiful time. We're going into negotiations with the teachers. Say, we'll give you the health savings plan, you let us bid out insurance. But you know, that's beyond you guys to think that way. And I have to wonder how many classrooms we could get out of $400,000 that we spent tonight on a phone. Plus, we've spent probably $300,000 laying fiber optic cable from school to school so we could transmit our absentee and tardy information quicker over to district offices. But, you know, we built Trinity for $750,000, a whole school. I just wonder how much classroom space we could get out of that money. Then I watched this board year after year allow other people to enter our district, and then we talk about a shortage in our schools. We're talking about this year we allowed more kids to come into our elementary schools from out of our district, not taxpayers in our district. And yet we sit up there and talk about a shortage. What are you people thinking? What is going on? I don't understand that. With regards to the operations of the new board, I was wondering if you could do a few things. If you're going to continue to require citizens to speak at the end of a meeting, it's 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, and you're requiring citizens to sit in your meetings for 3 hours to address the board. That's an insult to the taxpayers of the district. You're requiring citizens to fill out speech permits. Another insult to the taxpayers. You should just be able to come up to the microphone and speak without having to fill out a speech permit. You're enforcing time limits. We waste 3 hours. Citizens, you get 5 minutes. Don't go over that 5 minutes. The other thing is you don't answer any questions. Tonight, we voted for the capacity of our schools, yet you couldn't tell me how many classrooms we have in this high school. You couldn't tell me how many classrooms were available in the high school, and you couldn't tell me whether any of those classrooms were being used for anything other than for classes, for instructional purposes. You couldn't even do that tonight, yet you voted for the capacity of our schools. The other thing that you're continuing to do is you're continuing to force taxpayers to spend their own money who already contribute to your system, who already buy the phone system, who already pay for the health savings plan, to use their own money just to get basic financial information about the district. This month it cost $81.50 just to see what kind of money you're spending. $81.50 just for this month. Your communications consultant listed 29 items that they feel people would like to see on the website. Strangely enough, basic financial information wasn't one of those items. I'm just amazed by that. You've got an individual who's going to pay $1,000 out of his own pocket this fiscal year to track your budget. And we have asked constantly to put basic financial, in fact, Mr. Bell said, that's a great idea. And Mr. Holland, that would move the district forward, I think, to put basic financial information on the website. We continue to ask that. I'm asking that again tonight. And I think that these are some of the things you could do to move our district forward.
Kurt,
the last thing I have is this. My 5 minutes up? I have one more thing.
Okay, go ahead.
I got 1 minute. Sorry. I don't want to keep you guys up past your bedtime. your communication consultant has been secretly going around our district holding focus groups, not advertised on the website that anyone could participate in the focus groups, by invitation only. Your communications consultant was getting people rounded up for these focus groups. The spin doctor was going around and giving private invitation for people, but you had to agree with the direction of the school district in order to participate in the focus groups. My question for the board is, if the district is in such a great shape and we're so proficient at what we do, what are you guys afraid of? What is it that you're afraid of? Why do you have to have a communications consultant to begin with? Spending $50,000 for your communications consultant, and you have an individual paying $1,000 of his own money just to see basic financial information.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. I'll try to address just a couple of those items. First of all, as it relates to reserving the citizen's request to speak towards the end, you know, we do provide opportunity throughout the agenda, and of which you had that opportunity to speak on one of the items earlier during the meeting. So it's not as if we totally foreclose the opportunity for you to speak during the meeting. In terms of information and the cost of the information, we welcomed you to come into, you know, Arnie's office or any of the administrative offices to, you know, discuss, you know, finance or any question that you have, versus you're having to pay for that information. That information is readily available through those offices if you'd like to just sit down and visit with those individuals. I believe you've chosen not to do that. Anyone else have any?
Yes.
Ms. Crimmins?
The charges that the district charges for information requests are well within the legal guidelines for how we are allowed to recoup costs for providing that kind of information. It's not an unusual practice, and it's not an unfair practice. It is within our right to do so, and we exercise the right to do that. And at the same time, we do make that information available to anyone who wants to sit down and view it. I don't think that anybody has been denied the opportunity to view that information, and we certainly don't charge for the opportunity to sit in Arnie's office and view it. I think in terms of answering questions, the citizens' request to speak to the board is precisely that, a forum in which the citizen can comment, although my understanding is that it's not necessarily within our purview to stop a citizen at that point, and we certainly aren't obligated in any legal way that I know of to engage the citizen in dialogue at that point. Although I did hear and take very concise notes both times tonight that a citizen has spoken to the board, and so I do want to encourage citizens to know that we do hear you, and we do listen when you come to the microphone to speak, and we do care about what you say, even if that is not a point at which we've determined that we will engage dialogue. I also wanted to say that I think that we have, as a board and as a district, as a community, been talking about space issues and building capacities now for at least the 2 years that I've been on the board, and I know there were discussions before I came to this board. So this has been a topic that has been in discussion a very long time. And I want to just say that I'm thankful to my fellow board members for making a concrete action with regard to building capacities. I think that to go on repeating over and over again how we come to these various capacities is like beating a dead horse, and I'm thankful that we didn't put it off again yet another month or 2 months or 3 or 6 before we made a a motion to actually accept and put in concrete, at least for the short term, what our expectations are for those building capacities. And so thank you, my fellow board members, for doing that. And then finally, I guess I would like to say that that while we certainly may be able to purchase a lot of classroom space, we certainly, you know, for however much money we spend on other things, part of the product that we deliver, delivering education to our students, learning to our students, does require some basic support, some facilities support, some support staff, and in the age that we live in, it does require us to have the special services of non-instructional faculty. And I think that our district would be very poorly served if our only consideration in terms of how we deliver to our students is whether or not we're putting every nickel and every dime into the classroom space, as opposed to all of the other things that our students really need and our instructors need in order to deliver the high quality of education that our community has become accustomed to. I can't imagine a district in which we didn't put the student first, and that means the whole student. And so I'm grateful for the actions that we've taken, and I just wanted to say thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I'd like to comment.
Okay.
I just want to clarify a couple things. Mr. Weiss did come in and meet with us once in the last few months, so just for the board's information about that. And then also, I've said it before, but I can understand why Mr. Weiss or others may become confused why we are allowing some students to continue in our schools or to come into our schools under the open enrollment regulations, but we are regulated by state standards. It's a very difficult decision-making process for us when we're looking at space, but we have to allow students in if we have space. We do have a little bit of space in some areas, and so we have allowed a few students, and only a few. And once again, there is a incentive in a way for us to do that. I qualify that word, but we do receive funding for the students that come in, and there is funding that is a loss to us for students who go out. So if we only allow students to go out and no students could come in, if we were completely full, and that would be a reason that we could deny open enrollment, that would be a loss to our taxpayers and owners of the district. So there is a concern there. Last thing I'd just like to clarify, there was a comment that Mr. Weiss made about focus groups. And yes, Melissa Winter did conduct focus groups for a specific purpose, and that was for the purpose of determining why some of the owners in our district thought our schools are good and excellent, and as we spoke about this evening, there is a significant portion of our owners who feel that way, and that came from a research survey. So we were pursuing one specific question that was important for us to find out information about, and people were invited who supported that statement.
Thank you. Moving on to board forum. We're going to allow some time for our new board members to share some of their campaign experiences and success as new board members, and possibly share some things that they thought were highlights of their experience leading up to their election. Somebody want to start?
Sure.
Brian?
I'll keep these very brief. So I think this is just good input, and this is not really a narration, just kind of just comments. So I was going to keep them at that. So overall, there's unbelievable support for the school district in Hudson. People are real proud of this community asset we have here. I would say some of the challenges that people brought up to me were leadership. A good example of that is the task force met 18 months ago, and there may be good reasons, but we haven't really done anything with it, in terms of actually putting the plan together. We did some short-term things, but we haven't really put together the long-term plan with the community buy-in, and people are frustrated about that. They also, I got a few people who just want us to continue to focus on or continue to support and discuss our, great athletics in our district, and continue to kind of highlight that, within the board meetings. Communication is, I think, as board members, I think our charter should be to talk less and listen more as part of communication. And I think sometimes we take a lot of pride in the work we do, but I think we should spend a little bit less time defending and more time listening. And I got that, from a number of people in the district. School board meetings are too long. I know we have a lot to do, but I think we should focus on action and discussion and active dialogue, and keep kind of personal narration down, and focus on moving the district meetings forward quicker, because we have a lot to talk about, and let's kind of try to keep some personal kind of narration out of it. And then finally, the website is, I think we need to, again, the people, as I said, we need to quickly move our website to more and more information on there, including financial information, and that would help a lot of the people in the community. So those are my comments.
Okay. Thank you. Tracy.
I heard some of the same things Brian heard. In particular, with regard to communication, people want to know about big things that are coming up, improvements that are coming up, changes that are coming up sooner rather than later. As a board, we need to be in the community more, not just here, but at township meetings, other events, allowing the opportunity for people to talk to us more casually and to just discuss those things that are going on, again, sooner rather than later. So that people are engaged in what we're discussing, so that there's really a true exchange of ideas. Yes, our district is doing well, but there are areas that people feel that we could improve or take on. Global learning being one of those, language K-12. And to expand our course offerings in our language department. I thought it was interesting that there are several schools in Wisconsin taking on Chinese with an exchange program, having Chinese teachers coming here so that they can improve their English, and then the schools here being able to take advantage of their skills in teaching our own students. And finally, frustration in, how many times do we have to say, and in how many ways, that we have buildings that are overcrowded. I come from EP Rock, so as we talk about numbers tonight, that's not news to me. And given even what we've said about capacity tonight, it's already over capacity. And so yes, there is frustration on the part of many people about where our buildings are at and the numbers. We talked about elementary class sizes and the capacities tonight, but I'm reminded of what Board Member Crimmins said at the last meeting. We can shuffle around elementary students to different buildings, but we don't have that same opportunity at the middle school and the high school in particular.
Thank you. Tom?
In the process of going through the campaign, I had the opportunity to speak to a lot of folks through organizations and groups that think highly of the school district, and I think that's probably the majority of our community. But I also found the opportunity to speak to those that had challenges and come from different perspectives, and so I thought it was important to hear from them as well. And so there were three areas that I heard from that group. One is that there needs to be, and not that there hasn't been, but there needs to be, of course, an openness and an honesty and a no agenda, no hidden agendas, things like that. I think whether or not that has taken place in the past or not, there's at least a perception that that's happened, and so I think we need to be aware of that. Secondly, an accountability, and I guess I interpret that as measurable outcomes. We view this this community and this district, we have, as Mary has stated before, a community of owners, our taxpayers. They own this district, and we are accountable to ourselves as well as the others in the community to outcomes in light of what they are spending and we are spending in taxes, an outcome that is producing a product that is going to measure up to the society that is today and tomorrow in a world economy that's going to require high skills. And so I think as long as we can identify those measurable outcomes and show ourselves and the community that these tax dollars are an investment, and the return on those investments are actually bringing about measurable outcomes. And thirdly, a concern for all segments of our community, those that have a reasonable income and those that may not. There's a balance that we need to always be aware of, a balance of quality education and a reasonable stewardship of the expenses that we incur in this $42 million operation. It's a huge thing. So from those that love us, particularly, they really want us to move forward. They want us to, particularly I think in the areas of space and capacity, I think there's a level of frustration and regarding that has been pointed out by others. So that's what I've heard, and I'm excited about the opportunity to work with this board to try to address all of those things.
Thank you, Tom, Tracy, and Brian. I think I can speak on behalf of the other veteran board members. We certainly look forward to working with you. And I don't view any of you as sort of new to this process. I think, Brian, Tracy have been involved with the task force work, which involved a great deal of time and energy. And Tom, you've been active in the community as well as, working with the youth at the YMCA. So I don't really view you guys as newcomers, but just, coming on board and in a way sort of running. So welcome again. Thank you for your contributions. Okay, the next item is we're going to have to adjourn to closed session. So I'll entertain a motion for that.
I will so move. I will make a motion that we adjourn to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85, subparagraph 1, subparagraph F, for consideration of personal history in relation to notice of claim against the school district of Hudson.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Minnick and a second by Cindy Crimmins. This will require a voice vote of the board. So starting with Mr. Bell. If you're in favor of going into closed session, say aye.
Thank you. Bell, aye.
Crimmins, aye.
Minnick, aye.
Chernohoy, aye.
Kaisershot, aye.
Holland, aye.
Abishaleen, aye.
Thank you. We'll now go into closed session and in the conference room. Thank you.